And so Beth, if you can start recording, that'd be great. Oh, you already are on it. Thank you so much. Well, welcome everyone. So we'll get started. My name again is Naja. This is the third week of our speaker series here, brought on behalf of King County Superior Court. And I think it's fair to say, if I hear Judge McCullough's echoes, we've had a lot of great content. And we continue that trend today by welcoming Jason Turner, the Museum Director for the Northwest African American Museum here in Seattle, so very local. A couple of quick things. So of course, if you have any questions for Jason, if you can put them into private chat to either myself or to Beth Freeman, so we can read those questions at the conclusion of the presentation by Jason Turner, it'd be greatly appreciated. And let's get into it. So we want to continue our trend of just really celebrating also our youth here in the community. And so we have a special feature, and introducing that youth to you is Heather Muero from King County Superior Court. Heather, have you take it over?
Naja, good afternoon, everybody. So my name's Heather Muero. As you know, Naja and I are co-workers. We're both case managers, but we have as a special guest this afternoon, my daughter, Malia, who's here to my right. We are actually out of town because she's on break from school, but anyway, Malia has graciously volunteered to read a poem for us. I'm just going to give you a little brief introduction of her. So she is, again, obviously my daughter. She's 14. She's in 8th grade, about to move on to high school next year. She is I was thinking about how I was going to talk about her and introduce her. She is a wonderful student. She's a hard worker. She's a gifted athlete. She is a loving and kind friend to her group of friends. She's my one and only daughter. So obviously I cherish her. We have our moments because she's a teenager and I'm the mom. So, you know, we all have our moments, as we all do. But anyway, she's a great kid and I love her very much. So yeah. Are you ready for her to read, Naja? Is it time to just transition into that?
We are ready and looking forward to it with bated breath.
Okay, here we go.
This is Human Family by Maya Angelou. I note the obvious difference in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy. Some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse bemused delight. Brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane, but I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe. Lovers think quite different thoughts while laying side by side. We love and lose in China, we weep on England's moors, we laugh and moan in Guinea and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In many ways we differ, in major we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike.
Thank you so much, Malia. Wonderful, wonderful. Again, that was Maya Angelou's poem, Human Family, performed by the great Malia Muero. Thank you so much. So now, just an introduction for our speaker, Jason Turner, Museum Director of the Northwest African American Museum here in Seattle, to chat with us about NAM, history, art, and culture. Jason Turner has been utilizing his educational and musical skills for many years. He studied at the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, in communication studies with a minor in music composition. After college, Jason taught and performed music for Seattle Public Schools and also within private schools in the Seattle area. He has conducted and has written original compositions for theater and writes and produces music for recording artists. Jason, I should have had you perform something for us today.
Right.
We'll get the next best thing with your great presentation today. So I have you
Next
take it
time
over.
for sure.
Next time, yes. We'll welcome you back next year to perform. Thank you so much. Take it away.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just gonna share my screen here. Okay, let's put oops. All right. I'm Jason Turner with the Northwest African American Museum. Can everyone see and hear and all that kind of good stuff? Good. The Northwest African American Museum is a place for history, art, and culture. The museum has been up and running since 2008. And so we are happy to be coming up to celebrating, I believe, 13 years of opening. Lanisha DeBarta-Laban is our executive director. And she came to Seattle from Detroit, Michigan in 2017. And since then, she's been dedicated to ensuring that NAM continues to cultivate quality educational programming. NAM's programs help to tell our story as a people, and that includes the history of the community in the Central District of Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, and the entire Northwest region. We pass our rich Western history down to our youth so that they can pass it on to all generations to come. And if you look at this picture here, of course, you'll see that's Lanisha's picture there on the bottom, but that's our campus. That's the front of the building. And in the Coleman School building, which is over 100 years old, the museum section is on the bottom level. So the entire bottom level is the museum. The apartments upstairs are there's housing or low-income housing or adjustable housing, however you want to say it, is upstairs. And the park right outside of the building is the Jimi Hendrix Park, named after Jimi Hendrix. And Jimi Hendrix's sister is on our board of directors. And I'll talk to you more about that as we go along. But having her on the board is a real joy. And I'll tell you a little of, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we come along, as we go along. When you walk into the museum, this is like the first thing that you see. And basically you'll see Norm Rice and Larry Gossett and Ron Sims. And so you guys being King County employees, you guys probably know about Larry, at least. He was a King County councilman. And then this is the beginning of our journey gallery. So our journey gallery is our long hallway that has like a timeline and some other interesting things like this. This is the timeline. Let's see, I gotta move this here. So from the transatlantic slave trade to the Lewis and Clark expedition, and the slave that accompanied them, and there was a slave. A lot of people don't know that there was a slave that accompanied Lewis and Clark on that expedition. If you look at that picture here to the right, on top right underneath 1810 there, you'll see the gentleman. He's carrying a gun. His name was York. And he was on the expedition with Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea, who was a Native American. And York was kind of, a sight to see for a lot of people because a lot of Native Americans hadn't seen a tall, big black guy before. And he was actually kind of considered a friend to Lewis and Clark, but he was an enslaved African. So He was doing his duty, but he grew up with Clark's family. And so, Clark knew him really well. So he was given liberties. Like, for instance, if they went into a bar, he went into a bar with them, or those kinds of things, or if or anything's a lot of the privileges that a white person would have. York got a chance to experience that. Although, let's not get it twisted, he was still an enslaved African for sure. Let's see here, from the first Black American to settle in the area of Tumwater. And if you look at right here in the middle, you'll see the picture of the man right next to the Washington, Oregon Territory map. That's George Washington. And Naja's going to tell you a little bit more about a program that's going to be coming up here on the 25th, where I'll be in a discussion about George Washington Bush. He was one of the first people to settle Tumwater, Washington. Him and some other people from the Midwest, and they did that whole journey from the Midwest, just like Lewis and Clark, and then to on the Oregon Trail, and then over the Columbia River and up this way. And there's a lot of interesting stuff about his life. And so, if you get a chance to check that out, that's going to be a great conversation. A lot of mystery surrounding his life because of things that are undocumented, but there's a lot of factual information as well. And then the visitation of the legendary Dr. Martin Luther King here to Seattle. A lot of people don't know Dr. King visited Seattle in 1961, and he even stopped by Home of Good Barbecue. And so I guess he liked Home of Good Barbecue quite a bit. And so the Journey Gallery encapsulates a timeline from ancient Africa to the present. We start with when I do my tours, and we've had many tours of students coming in. I am the lead docent, and so I've conducted most all of those tours. I did have a couple of volunteers that were helping me before COVID, but a lot of students are really intrigued by the museum. And one of the facts about the transatlantic slave trade is that the United States really didn't get a lot of the slaves. The majority of the slaves went to, and who can answer this question? Which country received the majority of slaves in the Americas? Anybody?
Mexico.
Wrong. Yes. Brazil. Very good. All right, good. So when we reopen again, I'll be happy to have some of you guys come on the tour. We talk about stuff like that. That's really interesting. That's just the educator in me. This was the Jeremy Bell exhibition. When I first came to NAM, this was up in 2018. And Jeremy Bell was all the rage, and just wonderful work. Jeremy Bell displays his amazing portraits at NAMM in 2008. Jeremy's colorful and whimsical yet poignant art is full of detail and lifelike realism. Jeremy's art speaks to the everyday day in the life of Black dreams, Black struggles, and Black life. And you can Google him and see some of his other artwork as well. The Hiawatha E exhibition. Some of you guys might have been familiar with this exhibition if you've come to the museum. It's the iconic Black woman, Ain't I a Woman, was featured at NAMM in 2020, and was colorful and brilliant. It was a series of portraits that honors the contribution of African American women who have helped define who we are as a culture. Through the unfathomable struggles experienced by Harriet Tubman to the courageous strength of Angela Davis, Black women have led the way to Black victories uncountable and achieved it all with style, grace, and dignity. So this next slide here is we're going to listen to Hiawatha E talk about his work just for a few minutes. And let me know if you guys can hear it.
Hello, my name is Hiawatha E. I am a artist, entrepreneur, community member, mentor, and father and husband from Seattle, Washington. Iconic Black Women is an idea that was started between me and my wife, Veronica Berry. And as time went on, the work that we were doing with women across the country led me to a place where I felt it was time for me as a artist to make a statement about Black women. My favorite piece, I would say, are the four little girls. That was the hardest piece for me to paint. And then I would say Shirley Chisholm is another one that I think is really important. The decision to partner with NAM has been, for my career, one of the best decisions, and it came at the right time. I have been doing work in the community my whole art career for 30 years, focusing on Black folks. So to have an opportunity to do an exhibit at the African American Museum is more than important. It starts to lay out my legacy as an artist from the Seattle area. Everything has its time, and I think this collection, Iconic Black Women, it is time for us to make a statement about the women in our world, in our lives, right, in our community, and the work that they do.
Wow, that is so awesome. Hiawatha D's contribution to the culture and to art is just phenomenal. And we're hoping it'd be great to have him back again. This is a exhibit that was staged by Christopher Shaw. It's the algorithm archetype exhibition. And I'm just going to read this quote from him. One of the unique features of the history of ceramic artwork is that the acknowledged historic masters of the medium were all people of color. And I didn't even know that. So Christopher taught that to me. And I think this makes the ceramic medium a uniquely fitting place to challenge norms around the meaning and place of art. And if you just take a look at this artwork, it's very minimal, but it speaks to archetypes and in our world. The next slide here. This is the Jimi Hendrix experience. The Jimi Hendrix experience is a great part of the NAM culture and a part of Seattle culture. We opened our long-running Bold as Love Jimi Hendrix at Home exhibition in 2009 with the help of his sister Janie, who sits on the NAM board of directors. So it's really, we talked about that a little earlier. Janie was able to contribute personal artifacts from the Hendrix family to the exhibit, which made for a very genuine experience. And if you look here, for this first picture here, the purple likeness is a newly installed piece by the Parks Department. All of these things have been commissioned by artists for the Seattle Parks Department because the Seattle Parks Department is run, manages the all parks, and so that Jimi Hendrix Park is managed by the Seattle Parks and Recreation Department. But Jimmy's likeness is just fantastic in the purple, which is one of his favorite colors, and that song "Purple Haze." So that is a great likeness of him. And so if you travel by 23rd Massachusetts, you will see that beautiful likeness of him. That middle picture there, there is a couch there in that encasement, and that is the couch that Jimi Hendrix, he was all around the world playing music, playing guitar. Is considered probably one of the greatest guitar players and songwriters of all time. Has his star or has mentioned in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But that couch is is really kind of telling of his personality. He was a very simple person, and when he came home from the road, he would come home and just crash on his dad's couch. He would drive his dad's car, like an old beater, and he would just drive around the central just to go to his friend's house and just kick it. He just, he didn't like limousines. He didn't like the limelight. he didn't like a lot of press people in his face and stuff. So he was a very humble and very down to earth kind of guy. And you'll see there when you walk up the stairs from the back way to the park, that's his signature on that stairwell there. So yeah, we love Jimi here. Power to the people, freedom of the soul, pass it on to the young and old. That's a quote. And there's yours truly. This is our NAM interactive story time. This is an actual screenshot, but right after this, we're gonna just take a little peek at the story time. During our King Day, we kind of did a take on our story time, and we had a lot of different Seattle celebrities come in and do readings, and you guys will have a link to that that story time because Naja is going to give you guys a link to it, so you'll be able to see that Martin Luther King Day program. But the interactive story time is a lot of fun, and a lot of students are able to come. The NAM interactive story time is a oh, let me pause this here. Oh, it's not gonna play. The NAM interactive story time is a book reading program designed to allow students preschool age to 5th grade to learn cultural literacy and word recognition skills by reading along with a narrator, whoever that may be. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's other guests. This is the beginning stage of a section of NAM's curriculum that will branch into other more advanced interactive learning functions as we move forward. Here is a story that I'm going to play for you. It's Hair Love. I may not play the whole piece because there's a hair tutorial at the end of it that I want you guys to see. It's one of our staff members, Patrice, and her family are doing kind of a hair tutorial at the end of this. And Matthew Cherry, the author, is an NFL athlete, if you're familiar with football. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Patrice Bell, and I work here at the Northwest African American Museum. Thank you so much for joining us for our special Valentine's Day interactive story time. Today's story is Hair Love by the Academy Award-winning Matthew A. Cherry, illustrated by Vashti Harrison. This is going to be a wonderful story time. Let's get into it. Hair Love. My name is Zuri, and I have hair that has a mind of its own. It kinks, coils, and curls every which way. Daddy tells me it's beautiful. That makes me proud. I love that my hair lets me be me. In funky braids with beads, I am a princess. And when my hair is in 2 puffs, I am above the clouds like a superhero. My hair even does magic tricks. One day, Rocky and I were playing outside when along came the rain. From large to small it went. Presto, just like that.
All right, that's cool. I'm gonna fast forward here so you guys can see a little bit of the hair tutorial here. Let's see what she says.
As you can see, we have lots of hair in our family, and so we have to do lots of work to maintain it and keep it looking presentable and healthy. So right now, what are you doing back there, Alcinio?
I'm doing basically a 2-strand twist with locks.
Locks. So Alcinio and I have dreadlocks. It's permanent for now, and it's a different style of hair that a lot of African Americans wear. Nasir does not have dreadlocks. He has natural hair, and he wears it long. His brother used to wear his hair long, but he cut it off, all on his own one day. And we didn't get upset. We took him to the barbershop, and we let him get his very own haircut. Now,
That's really cool. All right. So
Nasir, however, likes to wear his hair long.
So yeah, that's our interactive storytelling. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about our Youth Curator program that I'm part of. And I did write that theme song that you hear at the beginning. I wrote that and a couple of other pieces during the soundtrack. So in 2020, under the direction of Keela Hall, the Carver Gayton Youth Curator program created an animation that focuses on Washington State's Black women in the arts with the help of animation director Bo Umbreski and music director me and the students who happen to be this time all girls, but we do encourage all genders to join us. Between ages 10 and 16 years of age, created this tribute in animated form to great women of the arts in the Pacific Northwest. And the following is this animated short film in its entirety. It's very short, so let's take a look.
I'm Katie Hall, the Youth Curator Program Coordinator and one of the many teaching artists that partner with 11 youth curators who are all co-producers of this fun, educational short film. We are honored to continue the award-winning legacy of the Northwest African American Museum's program. For 2020, we decided to explore Washington State's Black women of the arts, engaging their artistic work in music, literature, and dance influenced by the Pacific Northwest. Little did we know the challenges this year would present our group of youth. COVID, racism on the forefront, police brutality, protests, and quarantine lockdowns. Despite all of that, the 2020 Youth Curator Program rose to the challenge, creating a truly special experience, which is why we are so proud to showcase their talent, resiliency, and creativity. Sit back and enjoy this short film. We would like to welcome our guest teaching artist and expert on Black women in history, Dr. Juanita Cobbins-Monica, to talk to us about the importance of Black women in the arts.
Black women in the Pacific Northwest played important roles throughout history and made significant contributions to the region. While battling decades of racial and gender discrimination, they fought as fearless leaders and active participants in movements for social change, such as the suffrage, civil rights, Black power, and recently, the Black Lives Matter movement. Despite such achievements, we often do not hear about them, and their work is often overlooked or undervalued, especially Black women in the arts. Black women artists are important in our society. Through the use of poetry, literature, music, dance, and painting, they give rise to women's voices and political expressions that empower the masses, tell stories of lived experience, and heal the spirit.
Sierra Wilson was born October 25th, 1985 in Austin, Texas. She knew music was her destiny at a very young age. She joined the group Hearsay before starting her solo career, reaching star status with her debut album, The Goodies, and making the Billboard Hot 100 list. Sierra is now a mother, a wife, and a strong leader in the Seattle community with her husband, quarterback Russell Wilson, reading to the children at the Seattle Children's Hospital, providing 1 million meals to those impacted by the pandemic. She is one of the board members of the Why Not You Foundation, focusing on supporting and motivating young girls worldwide. Sierra's impact has branched out beyond music and rooted itself into social change. Amanda Morgan is a native of Tacoma, Washington. Inspired by ballet, she joined the Pacific Northwest Ballet, where she noticed no one looked like her. Using it as inspiration, she dedicated herself into becoming an example for girls of color in Seattle, accomplishing more before the age of 25 than many do in a lifetime, performing lead roles and having ballet pieces such as George Balachin's The Nutcracker and Ronald Henn's Sleeping Beauty. Eventually founding the Seattle Project, a group of collaborating artists focusing on dance and art pieces that break down barriers of accessibility. It doesn't matter what color skin you have, says Morgan. If you want to achieve something and work hard for it, then you can reach your dreams. Oleta Adams is a Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and pianist who found success in the music industry during a time when making an impact as a Black female was difficult in a white female-dominated profession. Born on May 4th, 1953, Oleta spent the first years of her life in Seattle before moving to Yakima, Washington with her family. While performing at a bar, Tears for Fears sought her to contribute her talents to their 1989 album, The Seed of the Love. Her voice was featured on their second album, cruising it to the top 40 around the world. That same year, she recorded her debut album, Circle of One. She now lives in Kansas City with her husband, John, away from the public eye. When asked about the impact of her music, she says, "I hope it speaks to them in their own way." Pat Wright is a legendary gospel singer whose voice still echoes in every corner of Seattle. She migrated from Texas to Washington on a segregated bus, lived in a segregated neighborhood, and performed Black pride songs in segregated schools. Surviving abuse every step of the way as a woman of color, she was a major presence in the Seattle music scene in the 60s and the 70s, and is listed as Metropolitan Top 50 Most Influential Musicians. She sang at Jimi Hendrix's funeral and for President Obama. "I never thought I would live to see an African American become President of the United States of America. With all of the prejudice that this country has against people of color," said Wright. Now 79 and retired, Pat Wright lives in the Central District, which has become predominantly white, making it more difficult to perfect the gospel song without the Black contingent. Gospel can't simply be sung and you don't clap and sway for the heck of it, says Wright. The idea is to work the lyrics out of you, like an emotion welling up in the heart, like a situation that needs fixing, like a journey with oppression on the back end and hope on the front end. Thank you for joining us for Washington State's Black Women of the Arts. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We hope you are inspired to learn more about the rich legacy of Black women of the arts within the Pacific Northwest and become the next generation of great artists.
So we're hoping to do more animations as we go forward. We want to do one that's based on Seattle history, and then we also want to include more influential people in the arts in our series. So that'll be good. This is NAM's yearly Black Santa program, and there's me again. I wear a lot of hats at the museum. So this year we had to do our Santa program virtual, and so that was really different, and it worked out really well. That the kids were really excited, and so it was kind of interesting doing it virtually, and then they were able to take pictures and things like that as well. So that was kind of cool. There is a quick, this is Seattle Times. I did a little article on us, and says many holiday traditions were canceled this year because of the coronavirus pandemic, but Black Santa still made the rounds in Seattle to end the year. We did not let COVID stop us, said Lanisha DeBartoleben, Executive Director of the Northwest African American Museum in Seattle. The museum held their popular annual Black Santa event online, with families able to video chat with Santa over Zoom. 2020 has always been quite a heavy year, has been quite a heavy year in so many ways, DeBartoleben said. And we have been hurting, and this joyful moment allows us to move to a place of healing and hope. And I want to talk about, as we wrap up here, the Knowledge is Power book giveaway. In 2020, NAM launched its Knowledge is Power book giveaway program, where we've been giving out thousands of new free books to students who love to read. And thanks to kind-hearted donations from the community, Elliott Books being one of them, this program has been a huge success. And so if any of you want to give to that program, you can do so through our website. The Knowledge is Power book giveaway. Here's all the kiddies enjoying their books, the students holding their books up for the camera. So this is great. So it engages family. And we had some of the Seattle Sounders help us do a big giveaway on Martin Luther King Day. So that was really cool. And there's a long list of NAM programs that fit everyone's needs. And I'll just briefly run this down. We have our annual Martin Luther King Day celebration. We have our, and then of course you've seen the programming that I've already kind of mentioned through this presentation, but we also have our annual partnership with Seattle Opera. And I think we had to postpone an event that we had due to inclement weather. So I think we're going to start that again. But it's basically a showing of a Seattle Opera performance at the History of Flight, the Museum of Flight. And so people are going to be able to park. It's a drive-in. You'll be able to park. And so we sold quite a few tickets. So I think a lot of those people will be coming back for the rescheduling. And if you're interested, you can get tickets on our website. There's a full month of Black History Month programs, Women's History Month in March, our annual Malcolm X Day. So yes, we do celebrate Malcolm X's birthday. Our annual Juneteenth celebration, which is always a blast. Summer youth writing camps in the summer. And of course, our youth curator program that even the young lady who did the poem here today is eligible to apply for. Then we have our Grandparents' Day with AARP, HBCU Sundays, which our last HBCU Sunday was a huge success. And we have our Descendants series, our Kwanzaa series, and our Interrupting Privilege workshops. So stay tuned to our website, where you'll see a whole plethora of really wonderful programming. And that's it. I want to thank you guys today for your patience and for joining in with us and looking at some of the things that NAM has to offer the community. Thank you very much for inviting me.
And thank you so much, Jason. I think everyone, if they're not clapping virtually, they definitely appreciate it. And we appreciate you being here. We wanted to open it up for a Q&A. I'll start with Beth Freeman. Did you have any questions from the audience?
I did not have any questions come in.
Okay, I have one here, and I'll read it. Talking about the story time, Jason, that you mentioned, can you give a little bit more details about when it is, how often, how to sign up, whether there are any fees or costs to it?
For the membership?
I believe the question is about when you showed the picture about the story time with you with the book and with the hair. I think it's referring to that event. If you can talk a little bit more about if there's any cost to it, how to sign up.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no cost to it. We're showing it once a month, every third Sunday it's being posted. So all of those stories are posted and they stay up on our site, so you can go and see it, at any given time. And it's really a time that you can have like with your family. If you have a young person that wants to check it out, you can go onto the website and pretty much choose the story that you want to read with them or have us present.
And then just to follow up, do you need to be a member, or are there other things that you can access through the story time for being a member? And also, can you talk a little bit about membership with NAM?
Sure. No, you don't have to be a member for the story time. The membership was basically for admissions for tours, and we are now actually still developing our tour, our virtual tour mechanism. So it's not in place yet, but once that's in place, we'll be accepting tours from Seattle Public Schools, for families, and for churches. We have a lot of family reunions, and so that will be ticketed. Memberships actually just basically discount those admission fees, and also, of course, membership helps with the proceeds from the memberships help to help run the museum. And so if you're interested in membership, you can also join NAM as a member on our website as well.
Okay.
And if anybody has any questions or needs any help, you can always email me personally and I will call you or email you. We're very accessible.
Thank you so much. I can put, if that's okay, your information on our SharePoint page, our court page.
Absolutely.
As well as maybe a link to NAM to see what else is going on. I did have a question. When you first began, you talked about NAM serving in the role sort of that storyteller and passing down stories. And that just reminded me of, we all probably have like that griot in our family, either that grandparent or that great grandma who knows everybody's stories and who knows all the history. And can you talk a little bit about how special it is to have NAM basically in our backyard? Are there other places, to your knowledge, that have similar museums in other cities, or is the establishment of NAM just, how does that come about?
Well, there is an organization, the Association of African American Museums. It's a national organization. And actually, Lanisha is the president of that particular association. And there are other associations and organizations that represent Black museums as well. But there are, there really aren't that many. The ones that come to mind, a really big one, and if anyone gets a chance to see it, is the Charles Wright Museum. That's the one Lanisha comes out of, and that's in Detroit, Michigan. They had a revamp of that museum, and it's just beautiful, beautiful artwork. They have this slave enactment exhibition where reenactment. It's not a reenactment, but it's an homage with these huge displays of the reenactment of the slave ships, and it's very powerful. So that's something. And there's also the museum of the lynching museum, where they show the lynchings or the people that have been lynched over the years, and they actually name as many of those folks as they can, which is just another incredible experience. I haven't been, but I want to. Another civil rights museum, which is really cool, is the Civil Rights Museum where Dr. King was assassinated down in Tennessee. So that's a really interesting one. So, but to answer your question, there really aren't that many African American museums in the United States, but they're coming to be more popular. And of course, there's the big one in DC, and it probably with Dr. Lonnie Bunch is the director now of the Smithsonian, but he was the person who kind of installed that museum, the Civil Rights Museum in Washington, D.C., which is part of the Smithsonian. But now he has been launched to the head of the Smithsonian. So, but it's still being run, and I think it takes like a year to get on the waiting list to go see that exhibit. But I'm hoping to go either this year, well, whenever COVID allows, but when they reopen, I'm definitely going to go to that one. But yes, it's very unique to have an African American museum. I don't know if there's anything like it here in the Northwest, really. But there are also places like Langston Hughes, and there's Black Arts West Theater here in Seattle. So there are a lot of Black organizations that are keeping African American culture alive. So we definitely want to, you know, honor them and support them. Any organization that's doing the work.
I did receive a question. Is your bookstore still open, and will it open for gifts and book purchases? Will it be open?
That's a good question. We are revamping our online bookstore. The museum is closed indefinitely because we are going through kind of a revamping stage. And so we don't know whether or not the museum is going to be open again this year or not. But everything is going to continue to be virtual for now until we get some things all in order. But yes, we will have an online store where you can buy NAM merchandise.
Great, thank you.
I have a question, Jason, here. Any plans to connect NAM with African youth and populations, or to add African artifacts and history to the museum?
That is a good question, and I will take a look at that. I know that we're going to be having some African dance and some African dance instruction online, so that's kind of cool, and with drumming as well. So African drum and African dance, and we're going to feature some African dance and drumming online. And as far as artifacts are concerned, yes, we are definitely interested in doing an exhibit of that type. So whoever has that idea, contact me so I can hear your ideas on that.
So we definitely need to stay on top of the upcoming events at
Yes.
NAM. That's a good segue to, you mentioned George Washington Bush. And for those speaking to the audience in the Digisphere, for those who got the newsletter, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have seen an ode to Jacob Lawrence. Can you talk a little bit more about that event? And I'm happy to pull up the link now as you discuss it.
Well, Jacob Lawrence, of course, well, let me start with the event. The event's happening on the 25th, and Naja is going to send you guys out some information about that and how you can join it. Join the, and it's free to the public. And we're just basically going to be talking about the George Washington Bush, who was a pioneer of African descent here in Washington, and a very unique person to come from the Midwest and do that travel and experience those hardships. And just a lot of fascinating information about him. And then, of course, Jacob Lawrence, who was commissioned to do artwork about him. And so he's got this whole series of artwork based on that journey of George Washington Bush. So there's a wonderful connection there. And so if you get a chance to come and look at that particular or join that particular event on the 25th, you'll learn a lot about Washington history and how George Washington Bush and Jacob Lawrence have influenced Washington state history.
And I'll put that link also in the chat as well. As we all could see, it is free, and that's the price that I love the most.
Yeah, I just read that comment about someone saying that we should have a King County day at NAM. That, hey, or you guys can definitely rent it out and have a big shindig there.
Beth, did you have any other questions that you received?
No, I don't have any more. Thank you.
I had one more, Jason, if you'd be so willing. And when I introduced you, I don't think I gave you enough credit. I mean, all the hats that you wore, from Santa to, you know, composing the music to some of those events. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, more about your background, what you've also composed for, and what you hope to do next for NAMM with respect to the skills and talent that you clearly have?
Sure. Well, I grew up in the Central District, and right in the heart on 21st and in between Yesler and Fur. And so I have a real strong connection. I went to Garfield High School and played in the marching band. They did that you saw that little piece on Pat Wright. I was in her choir, which was a Total Experience gospel choir for many, many years. I was involved with that, and then went on to work with other churches, and found out that I had the gift of being able to play piano. So I've been playing in Seattle area churches for many years, and right now I'm the lead musician at the New Hope Baptist Church, and have been there for quite some time with Reverend Jeffrey. And so I love music, and I've been producing. I'm right in the middle right now of a project of producing some young people, and that's one of the things that's really kind of exciting for me, is to be able to give back to the community through lessons, which I give some piano lessons, and also doing production and those kinds of projects with younger people. I'm also planning on, for NAMM, I'm planning on, I believe next month, there is a young lady here who plays violin, and she and I are going to be doing some musical pieces together. So stay tuned for that on the website. And so, yeah, there's a lot of projects happening, and it's a good thing that I get to utilize my music skills in and with the museum. And one of the biggest projects that we're going to be doing at NAMM is we are going to be putting together a choir. So we'll be the first African American museum to actually have a choir. So that's another exciting piece. So and that's the brainchild of our executive director. So, and when she told me about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So so there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming up musically. We also have a great rapport with the Seattle Repertory Jazz Orchestra. So they're going to be coming in, and hopefully I can get them to let me sing a couple of tunes with them too. So that'll be fun.
That's amazing. Well, like I mentioned at the outset, we'll have to reserve your time for next year. We'll put in the request so you can share a musical piece, perhaps with that violinist. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
So unless, Beth, unless you had any other questions, okay. Well, again, thank you, Jason, so much for sharing your time. Thank you. If you can pass along the message to Mr. Bartoleben as well. We so appreciate knowing about the treasure that we have in our community. So definitely we'll need to check that out more, and hopefully once we get past COVID, we can be there in person experiencing
Absolutely.
the events. And
absolutely, yeah.
Thank
you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of final quick notes just to point out. Next week is going to be our last Zoom speaker series. So get your tissue, dry your eyes. We welcome Justice G. Helen Whitener. So definitely stay tuned for the invite for the culminating event next Wednesday, February 24th, 12:15 p.m. to 1:30. And of course, our Sisters Who Care have put together an awesome trivia session. Yes, raise the roof. Based upon Jason's and our other speakers this month, sort of Q&A. So if you haven't been taking notes, we will post the videos on our SharePoint court page, so you can do your homework to study up for that event, which is set for February 26th at the noon hour, 12:15, I believe, to 1:30. So I'm sure links will be coming out for that in the next few weeks. So thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next week.